Captain Reed Walker had seen many places in the galaxy. Busy trade worlds, broken war zones, and lonely moons full of silence. But nothing felt quite as cold as this forgotten mining station floating near the edge of the outer rim. He didn't plan to stay long, just unload cargo, refuel, leave. That was his way. No connections. No trouble. But then, a small voice stopped him. Reed had just left Dock Bay 3, carrying a data pad and a small bag of tools. The hallway was quiet, the lights old and flickering. This station was falling apart, like most things. Out here, then, he saw a young alien boy standing in the corner. Thin, gray-blue skin, big dark eyes that didn't blink. He wore a dirty jacket 2 sizes too big and held a broken metal toy in his hand. Reed almost walked past. But then the boy whispered, "Human, my mother cries herself to sleep." Reed stopped. He looked at the boy, confused. "What?" The boy stepped closer. "She cries when she thinks I'm asleep every night. She tries to be quiet, but I hear her." Reed stared at him. He wasn't used to kids, and he definitely wasn't used to alien ones. But something in the boy's voice felt too real to ignore. "Why are you telling me this?" Reed asked. The boy looked down. "Because you're the only one who looked at her today." Then he turned and ran down the hall before Reed could say anything. Reed stood there, thinking. He could have walked away. He should have walked away. But instead he followed. The boy led him through narrow alleys of the station. Pipes leaked steam. Trash lined the floor. This part of the station wasn't shown on docking maps. Finally, the boy stopped outside a small rusted door. He knocked once and ran off into the shadows. Reed hesitated. Then the door opened. She stood there. An alien woman, tall and thin, her skin the same soft gray-blue. She wore a scarf over her head and old work gloves on her hands. A smudge of oil covered one cheek. Her eyes were tired, too tired for someone so young. They met Reed's, full of surprise and quiet strength. "Can I help you?" she asked. Reed cleared his throat. "Your son," he said. He stopped. He didn't know what to say. He didn't even know her name. She looked past him, scanning the hall. "He speaks too much," she said. "I'm sorry if he bothered you." "He didn't," Reed said quickly. "He just said something that made me stop." She wiped her hands on a cloth. "He's had no one to talk to but me. For a long time." Reed looked into the room behind her. The roof was cracked. Wires hung loose. A broken heat unit sat in the corner. She had been fixing it alone with her bare hands. "You need help with that?" he asked. She raised an eyebrow. "You don't even know me." Reed shrugged. "You don't know me either." She stepped aside. "If you want to waste your time, I won't stop you." He entered. They worked in silence. She handed him tools. He adjusted wiring. She didn't ask about his past, and he didn't ask about hers. But while working, he noticed small things. The blanket folded neatly in the corner. The child's bed made carefully with a toy beside it. A photo on the wall, faded, torn. A male, of her kind, now gone. After an hour, the heater hummed. Warmth filled the small space. She gave a soft sigh of relief. "You know what you're doing," she said. "Been in worse places," he replied. She turned to him. For the first time she smiled, but it was sad. "Thank you, human." "Reed," he said. "Captain Reed Walker." "I am Soraya." They shook hands. Hers were cold. He turned to leave. At the door he paused. "If you need anything else." She shook her head. "We're used to no one staying." Reed nodded, then walked away. But the boy's voice echoed in his mind. "She cries herself to sleep." He didn't sleep well that night. The next morning, Captain Reed Walker returned. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was the heater. Maybe it was the boy's voice. Or maybe it was the memory of those sad, silent eyes that stayed in his mind long after he left. Either way, his boots found their way back to the same broken hallway. He knocked on the metal door. No answer. He was about to walk away when it creaked open. There she was, Soraya, Her scarf was gone. Her hair, a soft silvery black, was tied back. She looked surprised. "You again?" she said. Reed scratched the back of his neck. "I figured I'd check the wiring. Make sure it didn't burn overnight." Soraya raised one eyebrow. "You think I don't know how to spot a lie?" Reed shrugged. "I'm not lying, I'm just offering." She opened the door wider. "Then come in." The small home hadn't changed much overnight. Still cracked, still quiet, but warmer. The boy, Tariq, sat cross-legged in the corner, playing with a broken data pad. He looked up when Reed entered. His eyes lit up. "You came back." "Yeah. Well," Reed said, kneeling beside the heater. "Couldn't stop thinking about your mom's sad face." Soraya folded her arms. "I heard that." Reed smiled without looking up. They didn't talk much while he worked. But Soraya moved around the space carefully, fixing torn cloth, cleaning tools, pouring tea into small cups that had cracks held together by glue and hope. Tariq sat nearby, watching Reed's hands. "Were you a mechanic before?" Reed shook his head. "Soldier, got tired, picked up repairs later." Soraya paused, then quietly asked, "War or choice?" "Both," Reed said. "War came first, then I chose to—" "Stop." A long silence followed, the kind of silence that didn't feel uncomfortable, only real. Finally, Soraya spoke again. "Tariq's father was supposed to come back from the mines." Reed didn't answer. She continued. "He said it was just 3 months. That was 5 years ago." Reed finally looked at her. Her voice didn't break. Her face didn't fall. But her eyes said everything. "Did he leave you, or did he die?" Reed asked gently. Soraya picked up a torn jacket from the floor. "Does it matter?" That hit Reed in the chest, because he knew the feeling. He had lost people in war. Some to enemy fire, some to silence, some who just stopped answering messages. And yes, sometimes it didn't matter how they left, only that they never came back. Later, Reed stood to go. Tariq followed him to the door. "Will you come again?" Reed looked at the boy, then at Soraya. She stood behind him, quiet, waiting for the answer. "Yeah," Reed said. "I think I will." He left without saying more. But in Soraya's heart something small shifted, a thread of hope, long buried, tugged loose. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "Don't do this. Not again." And yet, she turned to the tea, and for the first time in months, she poured 3 cups instead of 2. Captain Reed Walker didn't plan to stay, but the universe had other ideas. His ship, a sturdy old freighter named Midnight Runner, refused to start the next morning. Something in the power core had burned out. He tried fixing it 3 times. Each time, the same thing happened. The system lit up, then died. He kicked the console lightly. "You really want me to stay, huh?" The ship didn't answer, but deep down, he already knew he wasn't going anywhere yet. By the second evening, he was back at Soraya's door. No tools this time, just 2 ration packs and a soft knock. She opened the door, looked at him, then at the packs. "You know we don't eat human food, right?" "I wasn't sure," he said, "but you let me fix your heater. Thought I'd return the favor." Inside, she stirred a pot over the old heat unit. Something steamed, soft spices, vegetables, and roots from the hydroponic bay. Not much, but it smelled warm. Tariq peeked from the curtain and grinned. Reed raised a ration bar. "Trade?" Tariq nodded fast and ran to get bowls. They ate sitting on the floor with their backs to the wall. Soraya didn't say much, but Reed noticed how she always gave her son a slightly larger share, and how her own spoon moved slower than her hunger. After dinner, Reed helped clean up. Their kitchen sink had no real water flow, just recycled mist and a cracked filter. "You know," he said while fixing the faucet, "your home works harder than some ships I've seen." "That's because I have no crew," Soraya replied softly. Only a boy who dreams and a mother who holds the walls together. He paused his hands, looked at her. You hold them together better than most trained engineers. She smiled for a second, then looked away. Over the next few days, Reed kept coming back, sometimes to help, sometimes to eat, sometimes just to sit and not speak. And slowly, something strange happened. The silence between them became comfortable. Not empty, full. One afternoon, Reed brought a bag of old parts from his ship. You said Tariq's datapad is broken, right? Soraya nodded. It's all he has left from his father. Then let's fix it. They sat on the floor for an hour, Reed checking circuits, Soraya handing him tools. At one point, their hands touched accidentally. She pulled back quickly, but he didn't. He just smiled and kept working. When the screen blinked back to life, Tariq shouted with joy. It works, it works. He hugged the pad, then ran up and hugged Reed too. Soraya watched, quiet, but her eyes said everything. And that night, as Reed left the home again, she followed him to the door. Before he could say goodnight, she spoke. He didn't hug his father that way. Reed turned. I'm not trying to replace him. I know, she whispered. That's why it means more. In the silence of the hallway, something unspoken passed between them. Not love, not yet, but something stronger than distance and louder than words. The sun on Oral 3 was weak that week. The station's artificial atmosphere flickered again. Lights blinked. Power was unstable. Everyone complained. But Soraya said nothing. She only worked harder. Captain Reed Walker had started visiting daily now. He fixed pipes, helped teach Tariq math, carried supplies, shared quiet meals, but he always noticed. One thing, Soraya never sat down, not really. Her hands were always busy, cooking, cleaning, fixing, lifting. He once caught her repairing a broken wall vent using a spoon and a strip of old cloth. You don't stop, he said. If I stop, she replied, who keeps this place standing? He didn't argue that time. He should have. It happened on a gray morning. Reed was walking back from the market with food rations when he saw Tariq running toward him, breathless, eyes wide. It's Mama. She won't wake up. The bag fell from Reed's hands. He rushed into the cabin. Soraya lay on the floor near the back corner, beside a half-repaired panel. A tool was still in her hand. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing, shallow. Reed dropped to his knees. Soraya, can you hear me? No answer. He pressed his hand to her forehead. Too cold. Her fingers had small cuts. Her lips were pale. She had been pushing herself too long, eating too little, sleeping too little, giving too much. And now her body had stopped fighting. He lifted her gently. She was lighter than she should have been. Tariq, get her blanket. Hurry. The boy obeyed. Reed wrapped her, grabbed a comm, and called for emergency access to the lower clinic. This is Captain Walker. Priority 1. Civilian. Collapse. Sending coordinates now. The medical drone arrived 10 minutes later. It was the longest 10 minutes of Reed's life. The clinic was small, 2 rooms and a tired medic, but they did what they could. V fluids, warm gel packs, biomonitoring. Reed sat beside her bed for hours, one hand wrapped gently around hers. Tariq sat on the floor hugging his legs, not crying, just staring. Finally, the medic spoke. She'll live. Reed exhaled deeply. What happened? Malnutrition, exhaustion, mild internal tearing from untreated strain. She's been hiding pain for weeks. Reed clenched his jaw. Why didn't she say anything? The medic looked at him. Because people like her think they're not allowed to be weak. She woke late in the night. Her eyes opened slowly. She saw the ceiling, then turned, and saw him. Still there, still holding her hand. You stayed. He nodded. Of course I did. Her voice was faint. Why? He looked at her. Really looked. Because someone needs to care about you even when you don't. Tears formed in her eyes. The strong woman who never asked for help finally broke, not with noise, not with sobs, just one silent tear sliding down her cheek. "I didn't want you to see me like this," she whispered. "Too late," he said gently. "And I'm still here." In the next bed, Tariq slept curled up with a blanket Reed had brought from the cabin. Even in sleep, his small hand reached toward his mother's bed. Reed took Soraya's other hand and gently placed it there. The circle, complete. In that quiet, humming clinic under broken ceiling lights, Captain Reed Walker realized something. He wasn't here for repairs anymore. He wasn't here for pity. He was here because this family needed him. And maybe, just maybe, he needed them too. The news spread faster than truth. By the time Soraya returned from the clinic, still weak but walking, the station was already whispering. Some aliens nodded politely. Most didn't. Some just stared, and others turned their backs. Captain Reed Walker noticed it first when he walked into the supply shop. The clerk, usually friendly, didn't greet him, didn't even make eye contact, just rang up the parts silently and handed over the bag. Reed said, "Thanks." No answer. He walked out slowly, jaw tight. Later that day at the repair yard, 2 alien mechanics stood near his ship. One of them spoke just loud enough for Reed to hear. She gave her body to a human just for heat and food. Maybe he paid her with metal scraps. They both laughed. Reed didn't say a word, but he tightened the wrench in his hand until it bent slightly. Inside the cabin, things felt different too. Tariq had stopped smiling as much. He kept close to his mother, asking questions she couldn't answer. "Why are people mad at you? Why did that lady call you a name?" Soraya only hugged him tighter. Reed watched it all silently. He knew this kind of hate. Not always loud. Sometimes it just sits in a room and waits for you to leave. One evening, Soraya was cooking again, slowly, carefully. Reed sat by the table, fixing a broken comm piece. Suddenly she said, "They want you to leave." He didn't look up. "I figured. They think you've taken too much space in our lives." "Have I?" She didn't answer right away. Then softly, "You gave us warmth, safety, laughter, so maybe they're right. You've taken space, but it was space no one else wanted." Reed looked up at her. "Do you want me to go?" She turned, eyes tired but calm. "I don't want you to get hurt." "That's not an answer," he said. "I know." The next morning, it happened. Reed was walking with a power cell when 3 older alien men blocked his path in the narrow corridor. One stepped forward. "You've stayed too long, human." Reed didn't flinch. Didn't know there was a time limit on kindness. Another growled. "She was one of us. Now she's a whisper, a disgrace." Reed stepped closer, calm. "She's stronger than all of you combined. And if you can't see that, then maybe I'm not the outsider here." One of the men shoved him, hard. Reed stumbled back. Tariq saw it happen. He rushed in, stood between Reed and the angry men. His tiny voice shook, but didn't break. "He is family now. You can't make him leave." Silence followed. No one expected the child to speak. The men turned away and walked off without another word. Reed looked at the boy, then at Soraya, who had appeared silently in the hallway. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just stepped forward and gently took Reed's hand. That evening, they ate together again, like always. But this time, the light between them was brighter than anything, outside, because now, they were not hiding anymore. The rain came that night, artificial from the station's broken sky system. Just a slow mist falling from the vents above, trying to clean the air, failing quietly. Soraya sat by the window. She didn't watch the sky. She watched the reflection in the glass, her own tired face, and behind it, Captain Reed Walker silent, standing in the doorway. "Do you want tea?" she asked without looking at him. "Only if you're having some," he replied. "I wasn't going to." "Then neither will I." A quiet smile touched her lips. It faded fast. She finally turned around. "You've given me so much," she said. "Warmth, safety, a reason to feel less invisible." Reed said nothing, he just waited. She stepped away from the window, stood across from him. Not close, but close enough for the words to matter. "But I didn't ask for this bond," she said. "I didn't plan for a human to enter my son's life, or to repair the things I built with shaking hands. I didn't want to need anyone again." Reed nodded slowly. "Then don't need me." She blinked. He stepped forward. "Just want me here. That's enough." Soraya looked at the floor. Her voice cracked. "What if I start wanting too much? Then I'll stay long enough to handle it. And if I break again, then I'll help you put the pieces back." Silence fell like soft thunder. No big speeches, no promises, only presence. She turned away, wiping her eyes. "I still dream of the day he left. Tariq's father. He said he'd be back before the season changed. He never sent a message. Never looked back." Reed took a slow breath. "I've lost people too." She looked at him. "How do you trust again?" He looked her in the eyes. "You don't. You choose to." They stood still. Tariq's soft snore came from the next room. The rain tapped gently above them. Reed reached out his hand. She looked at it, paused, and then placed her own inside it. No bond activated. No collar beeped. No star lit up. Just two hands quietly saying, "I'm not alone." The ship was finally fixed. Midnight Runner hummed again. Engines clean, power stable. The fuel cells blinked green for the first time in days. Captain Reed Walker stood outside the airlock with his tool bag in one hand, the other hand resting on the edge of the hull. The work was done. He could leave now. He should leave now. But still, he didn't move. Behind him, the corridor lights flickered as usual. Nothing fancy, just dull yellow tubes and quiet metal walls. But this station, this forgotten, cracked place, had changed something inside him. He remembered Soraya's voice from the night before. "You don't have to fix everything." And his own reply, "Maybe not, but I can stay for what's worth fixing." He had meant her, and Tariq, and something deeper he couldn't quite name, but he hadn't said it out loud. Not yet. As he powered down the tool panel and checked his departure list, he heard soft footsteps. He turned. Tariq stood there. The boy held something behind his back. "Hey, kid," Reed said gently. Tariq said nothing, just stepped forward and handed him a folded piece of paper. "I drew something." Reed unfolded it slowly. The lines were rough. The colors faded. But the picture was clear. 3 figures, a tall human in a jacket, an alien woman with long hair, a boy with big eyes. All 3 stood under a roof with stars above them. At the top, one word was written in shaky handwriting. "Home." Reed looked up. His throat tightened. "Did your mom help you draw this?" Tariq shook his head. "She doesn't. No. I wanted to give it to you before you go." "You're leaving, right?" Reed kneeled, held the paper gently. "I thought I was." Tariq looked down. "It's okay if you do, I just wanted you to remember." Reed placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You don't need to give me drawings for me to remember you." Tariq smiled a little. "Then stay." The boy ran off after that, disappearing into the hallway. Reed stood slowly and realized his hands were shaking. He'd been in war. He'd flown through asteroid belts. But this was fear, not of dying, but of belonging again. He walked one last time to Soraya's home. No knocking. She opened the door before he could raise his hand, as if she knew. She always did. They sat across from each other at the table. Steam rose from 2 cups of tea. He unfolded the drawing and placed it gently in front of her. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Tariq still believes in things." "I stopped a long time ago." Reed didn't speak. He waited. Then she looked at him, straight into his eyes. "You came here with nothing, but you gave us everything." She stood and walked to the shelf, pulled down a small cloth bag, set it on the table. Inside were his old tools, his spare parts, his data pad, his travel ring, everything he had brought. She looked at it, then at him, then said the words that broke every wall inside his chest. "You can go. Or stay." No promises, no drama, just a choice. Simple, heavy, real. Reed looked down at the bag, then at the picture, then at her, and said, "I never planned to build a home." He stood. "But it looks like it was already here." He reached out. She didn't hesitate this time. Their hands met, fingers locked, and stayed. Weeks later, the midnight runner still sat in the bay. Dusty now. No one touched it. It wasn't broken, just no longer needed. Reed had a new job now. He taught mechanics at the local school, helped rebuild the old engine systems in the lower district, fixed what others had stopped seeing. Tariq sat on his shoulders at the market, pointing out fruit stalls. Soraya walked beside them holding a basket. When people stared now, they didn't whisper. They nodded, because slowly, quietly, a human had become one of them. Not by force, not by fight, but by choice. Final scene at night. Soraya sat on the rooftop sipping tea, watching the stars. Reed joined her, silent, handing her a blanket. She smiled and leaned into his side. He looked up. "I used to think home was a ship. Then I thought it was a planet." He looked at her. "But it's neither. It's a voice that says, 'Stay.'" She closed her eyes. "Then stay, Captain." He kissed her forehead. "I already did."